Hello and welcome to the National Association of Enabling Educators of Australia Symposium for 2020. My name is Dr. Sarah Hattam. I'm a member of the Executive Committee of NAEEA and I'm one of your hosts for the next 2 days. I'm a senior lecturer in the Enabling program offered at UniSA that's delivered at UniSA College. I've taught in almost a decade and witnessed the incredible opportunities provided by enabling education to thousands of South Australians wanting to pursue their dreams of a tertiary qualification. It is so wonderful to have such strong interest in our symposium, and we are very thankful to the participation of our fantastic panel chairs and panelists. I would like to respectfully acknowledge the First Nations peoples and their elders past and present who are traditional custodians of the land that we meet on across Australia. We acknowledge their spiritual relationship with country. And just some brief housekeeping points as we are using a webinar session format for each panel session. Mics remain muted, but please use the chat to post your questions and questions will be responded to in the second half of each panel session. We've also included polls into each and that we will respond as the panel sessions progress. We are hosting lunch and end of day networking as normal Zoom sessions where your participation is strongly encouraged. All sessions will be recorded and made available later via NAEEA website and the YouTube following the symposium. And also feel free to share via Twitter at 01NAEEA and hashtag NAEEA2020. So the overarching theme for the symposium is the future of enabling education in Australia, which hopes to provide the space for philosophical, political, sociological, pragmatic explorations of where the sector is heading due to COVID and other political, economic and social shifts in the landscape. As a sector, we demonstrate great resilience. The symposium will provide strategies about how we adapt and prepare for future challenges that the sector may face more broadly. If we reflect for just a moment on what 2020 has delivered for us across Australia and across our sector. Of course, we started the year with COVID that has pushed us all into our homes and onto Zoom for our teachings and our meetings and a crisis over toilet paper supplies. Many of us juggled work and family in isolation that brought about new challenges and reinforced the argument for salary increases for our school teachers. Teaching in a completely online environment was new for many of us and provided opportunities to develop our digital teaching skills as we became experts of synchronous and asynchronous modes of teaching and using different tools to engage and connect with our students. The pressures of isolation and the new ways of doing and being left many of us looking like this, but we persevered. Unfortunately, across the political landscape, there was a shake-up as the federal government refused to financially support universities and their workers that led to devastating job losses, impacting casual teaching pools and others across the country. In the Job Ready Graduates legislation, the federal government has redefined the value of certain knowledges and careers with increases to university fees for the arts and humanities, as well as undermining the security of funding of our programs. The Job Ready Graduates legislation means that as a sector, we need to revisit our discussions about enabling programs being aligned with the AQF. Finally, we have also witnessed the global phenomena that is Trumpism, with a glimmer of hope that the election outcome will bring increased peace across the globe, but we have our own political battles to fight. Our symposium aims to address a number of these themes across the next 2 days.
Thank you, Sarah. So my name is Dr. Anthea Fudge and I am your other host over these 2 days of discussion. I'm a NAEEA executive member and lecturer at UniSA, teaching into UniSA college programs as part of the Education Futures unit. So just to give you all a little quick summary of the activities and panels for the next couple of days. We've got our first session, starting with students discussing hidden benefits of enabling education. Our session number 2 will look at the Australian qualifications framework with some fabulous panel chairs and panel members. And then our second day tomorrow, we will again have another welcome. And our third session will look at the Job Ready Graduates package, which will have some important links with discussions today about the AQF as well. Then we will have a lunchtime informal Zoom catch up, and then our final major panel session, finishing up with exploring online experiences and more with digital enabling pedagogy. and then a final session to round up everything with the chair of the NAEEA, Karen Seary, to provide some future directions and top 3 priorities for the sector and future collaborations. Please note also that the schedule for these next 2 days are in Australian Central Daylight Saving Time, so please adjust to your time zone as needed. We have some fabulous executive committee members at the National Association. We have Karen Seary as chair, Charmaine Davis as secretary, and Bronwyn Ralph as treasurer. And then we have our other committee members, Anna, Jonathan and George, Susie and Pranit, and then also myself and Sarah. So we have executive committee members from across various institutions in Australia. And we want to bring a collective voice to enabling education and the important priorities that we have for both our students, staff, and the sector more broadly. So just as we introduce you to this welcome before we get on board to hearing from the students, over the last year or so, the NAEEA Executive Committee has been involved in a number of different things. We've looked to redesign and reinvigorate our website that you can link through and see more details there, enablingeducators.org. We've also been involved in a number of advocacy activities, including a formal roundtable with the Federal Education Minister's Office to discuss the impacts of the job-ready graduates on enabling education, which of course we will have a wonderful panel talking about that tomorrow. I also encourage you to also look and explore the online Enabling Educators website, where you will be able to see our monthly Zoom webinars that Pranit has been running this year in an online mode due to COVID. They can be found under the YouTube link, and I'll show you that in a moment. We've also been undergoing benchmarking projects as well. Susie Syme and her team have been involved in a number of benchmarking projects last year and this year, and it's been something that's being launched again and expanded upon even further to help to really benchmark our sector overall, which is really important for us in different institutions across Australia. There have also been some learning outcomes projects, which you'll be able to see on the website. Oops. And we've also been involved in an enabling bibliography project, amongst many other activities as well. I'll just now share and show you briefly through the NAEEA website, and then we will begin. So with the NAEEA website, I encourage you to look around. We've got some information on enabling education. This includes our definition and learning outcomes. And then under the events tab, we have past conferences and symposiums and details from those. If you wish to see the details for this symposium, you would have been sent a link through your Eventbrite, but you can also access it via the Google site here to see all of the details and information. There are also a number of resources that we are starting to build up and collate in various areas across access and widening participation, enabling pedagogy and curriculum, equity and diversity, student and staff wellbeing, transitions and reports. So please have a look at some of those resources that are available. And then also with news and press, we have a number of student stories that you can see and learn more about. And we will continue to build our repository of student stories and resources throughout. So, on behalf of the Organising Committee and the National Association, we hope you enjoy and participate in some useful discussions over the next few days. And we've got to start with our students, of course. Students are at the centre of what we do and are of critical importance. So to begin, we've got an amazing student panel. To chair this session, we have alumni enabling student Matthew Bowden and other panel members who will explore the hidden benefit of enabling education, a letter to our Prime Minister. It will be running for the next hour. Good, we've got 2 minutes before we begin. So over to you, Matthew, get yourself set up, and I welcome you all to our 2-day NAEEA Symposium and hope you enjoy hearing from our fabulous students to kick us all off. Thank you very much.
Hello everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. My name is Matt Bowden and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to be chair for this session. I would just like to say thanks to Dr. Sarah Hattam for inviting me to contribute to the NAEEA Symposium. A little bit about me. I completed foundation studies at UniSA in 2013 and I have one final placement left to complete my Bachelor of Education primary degree, also at UniSA. I've been studying part-time since 2014 while working part-time as an IT engineer, and I've also been a student mentor for UniSA at various times through this period. Joining me on the panel today are Nicole Hoffman. Nicole completed the TPP course in 2018 at the University of Southern Queensland and lives in Toowoomba. Nicole is currently studying at the University of Southern Queensland and is in her 3rd year of a Bachelor of Primary Education degree with a major of special education. She works full-time as a teacher aide in a local Catholic primary school and manages her youngest daughter's touch football team. Christy Lee Alfrey began her student journey with CQ University's enabling course STEPS in 2015. She then continued into CQ University's Bachelor of Psychological Science in 2016 and graduated with first-class honours in March 2020. During her undergraduate studies, Christy Lee volunteered as a CQ University student mentor and received 2 consecutive Student Mentor of the Year awards. Christy Lee also has recently, in July 2020, begun her PhD on the role of identity in behaviour change and maintenance and is aiming for a career in academia. James Wheeler completed TEP at Charles Darwin University and then went on to complete an associate degree in legal studies, followed by a Bachelor of Arts and Law double degree. He is now undertaking his practical legal training to become a lawyer, which takes 2 years. I hope our presentation today will help highlight the importance of access to enabling education. Each of us will speak about our experiences in enabling education and the effects it has had on our lives. And this is my story. "Don't be a baker," said my dad, a country baker, to me in 1986. "The hours are terrible and there isn't a lot of money in it." I said, "But why have you been a baker for over 20 years? Dad thought about it and he said, "Well, I do like I can be creative and feel proud of the results I produce." His comments checked out. I can distinctly remember my dad being very proud of the products he produced and his eternal struggle of quality over price. As for the hours, he was right. For 6 days a week, I saw my dad in the evening for 2 or 3 hours and for a short time at breakfast. The rest of the time he was sleeping due to working through the night. As for the money, as a family, we weren't destitute, but we weren't rich. Most of us take advice from our family and parents, and especially as children. Dad's valuing of quality over price stuck with me and remains with me today. I actually dislike money. I see it as a necessary part of life, but I have no dreams of monetary wealth. So I worked through school, was an okay student, but more interested in subjects like English, photography, and computing, and therefore didn't obtain the qualifications needed to go to university. Not that I wanted to go to university, I wanted a job and a chance to be put into practice all of the stuff I knew, or the stuff I thought I knew. At that stage of my life, it felt like I was done with study. It all seemed very theoretical and I was wanting to move on. Plus, I was in a small country town and I really was more interested in life outside of this insular environment. So I moved to the big country town of Adelaide and ended up in an entry-level IT job running a mini computer. This thing was the size of a lounge room and needed constant human intervention to keep it going. IT work was great. It was like being paid for my hobby. I was able to learn a lot about business. It also allowed me to be somewhat creative in designing and implementing innovative solutions for the business that I worked for. I undertook some study at the time, mainly industry-specific stuff and certifications. A few years later, I found myself working for IBM and reaching middle age. This was all very comfortable, but I realized I was now a small cog in a big machine and the chance for any sort of innovation and creativity was blocked by bureaucracy and a highly defined job specification. I also had 2 small children and found myself increasingly interested in the early learning processes at childcare. In fact, I discovered that this was becoming a lot more interesting and rewarding than my job. I soon decided that I would like to get into education in some form, either early learning or primary teaching. The challenge was how to do this, or could I do this? I knew from speaking with the folks at childcare that the degree was pretty intense, 4 years full time. Plus, it was university level education, something that I hadn't engaged with in my life at all. Further investigation and a visit to a UniSA open day, I realized there was a mature age entry option available, the STAT test, and I looked into it. While I thought I could pass this test, I wasn't filled with my confidence in my abilities to be able to successfully undertake the coursework, as this seemed to be a whole other world of study that I had no experience in. At the same open day, I discovered the option of entering university by undertaking foundation studies. This seemed perfect, a chance to see if I could successfully undertake a full course load university education for 1 year, and essentially it was free. I applied and I was accepted. And then a few days after my acceptance, my employer offered a redundancy option, which was perfect timing. The ability to be able to undertake a full study load without committing to a degree and a large financial outlay is an excellent option for people to enter university. I was lucky I had a job and a retrenchment, which helped me. However, this is most definitely not the case for everyone. There are so many reasons that preclude people from completing traditional schooling as an entry path into university. Rural people seem to be quite disadvantaged in this area. When I left school in the mid-1980s, it was quite possible to find a reasonable job with no further training. With a decline in local manufacturing in subsequent years, job prospects with the chance of future promotion are becoming limited for unskilled workers. No longer are there factory jobs that allow for career growth from low-level production line jobs. In fact, there really aren't a lot of low-level production line jobs at all. More than ever, to be able to find meaningful and fulfilling work really means undertaking tertiary education, and a university level education is absolutely desirable. Entry-level services jobs, such as casual work and hospitality, do not provide enough regular income to be able to start university without significant assistance. If funding is removed for pathways to university, we run the risk of creating an underclass, people who, for a variety of reasons, cannot get into university, and in that underclass will be people who would thrive and progress if only they had the opportunity. Another concerning factor is the current devaluation of humanities subjects by the government. While some students may have a clear path they would like to follow through university, others may be uncertain or may discover after starting university that their chosen degree is not for them. By enrolling in a foundation studies course, students get to experience the university environment and potentially for the first time in their lives, begin to understand the value of critical thinking and social awareness. This in turn supports the development of an analytical and cognitive framework, exposing students to other options and allowing students to evaluate their study path choices. A foundation studies course, therefore, not only sets up students for academic success, but also avoids tying up degree courses with students who may subsequently discover that the choice of the degree is unsuitable for them. In my case, foundation studies provided me with an excellent base to start my degree. Without foundation studies, I would have been overwhelmed and struggled immensely in my degree course. Other colleagues of mine who studied with me in foundation studies have graduated and commenced their careers in their chosen fields. Many of them were from poor families, and many of them were the only members of their family to attempt, let alone complete, a university degree. Without the affordable entry point that was and is foundation studies, many of these successful students would never have had the opportunity to utilize their skills and talents in such a productive manner. This is the message I would choose to stress to the Prime Minister. Enabling education is effectively a generator of capital, both social and financial. I feel I would need to place more stress on the financial benefits, as this would appear to be something that would resonate with him. Thinking politically, I would also say that the initial benefits of enabling education could potentially be realised within a single election cycle, and I'm sure this would appeal to any politician. As for me, well, I've chosen to be a teacher. I'm definitely not in it for the money, but I love the creativity, and there's nothing like a good challenge. Okay, so our next speaker is Nicole Hoffman. I'll hand over to Nicole.
Hi everyone, I'm Nicole. I left high school after grade 11 in 2002. My parents owned a business and I was very lucky growing up. I went to private high schools, private primary schools. I was given every opportunity to make something of myself, but 16-year-old me decided she knew best and decided that I wanted to be a beauty therapist. So I left after high school after grade 11 and went to TAFE to do a beauty degree. After doing that for a little while, I decided that I was not suited to that sort of lifestyle. While I enjoyed having lots of nice beauty treatments done to me, I didn't like doing them to other people. And so I left and decided to work for my family with their business. I did that for a few years, which was beneficial for me at the time. And I was lucky I had that opportunity because lots of people don't have the opportunity to just walk into jobs. I met my husband when I was 18 and we got married. I had my first daughter and we got married, and I was 23 with 2 children. And when my eldest daughter started going to prep, I started helping out at her school and just started with reading groups, PE lessons, things like that. And I decided that I had a passion for education, which was not what I was ever expecting, as I certainly didn't enjoy school myself. So I decided to go to TAFE again, and I completed my teacher aides course. So after working as a teacher aide for a few years, I decided that I wanted more. As I didn't finish grade 12, I didn't think university was ever going to be an option for me. I looked into what sort of options I had, and it was then I contacted the university, USQ, because I'm in Toowoomba. So I contacted them and they spoke to me about their pathways program, which is the TPP. Because I wanted to do primary education, I had to study English, maths, and science. And they also offer a study management course. Their study management course was phenomenal and completely set me up for what university was going to be like. I had no idea, and 10 years after finishing school, could not remember how to write an essay or study, or the dedication and the time that it took to do all of those things. I, at the moment, have a 12-year-old daughter and a 10-year-old daughter. My husband works away. I work full-time as a teacher aide at one of the primary schools in Toowoomba, and I am still doing 4 subjects a semester and 2 over summer. So in 2 years, I have completed 20 of the 32 subjects that I need to do to get my degree. It has been full on, it has been hard, but it has all been worth it. For me, the driving force is setting an example for my children. I don't want them to be disappointed, and I certainly don't want to be a failure. Back in the olden days, Gough Whitlam offered free university, as he understood that it was an investment in Australia's future. The pathways programs that we undertake today are the same thing. They enable people who would never have had the opportunity to go to university in the traditional means a pathway. So being given, I feel honoured that I was given that opportunity, and I've certainly taken it on 100%. 17-year-old me would have been a terrible teacher, and I know that. Going straight out of high school and into something like teaching, I have lots of friends who have not handled not only the workload but also the prac. Being able to have the life experience that I have has enabled me to become a better person, therefore will make me a better teacher. I know that I can do what I need to do, and I know that I'm dedicated to mold the lives of our future without the younger me having that availability and that option. It's difficult, and working in a school has shown me exactly that. Teaching is not for everyone. but it is my chosen path, and it's something that I want to do, and I want to do well. I want to be the teacher that students remember. I want to be the person that changes their lives. So by undertaking university as a mature age student, I think that will enable me to do that. Sorry, just checking my notes. I'm 34 years old now. I should finish my degree in a year and a half, which will be fantastic. At that time, my eldest will be going into her senior schooling and my youngest will be in grade 6. So I will also be available then, after dedicating so much time to university at the moment, I will be available to help them. I would never have been able to help my daughter get through her senior studies without doing what I'm doing now, because I didn't have what she had. I've chosen to major in special education. My role as a teacher aide has enabled me to work with those special needs students in the mainstream circumstance, but I would also like to teach special ed in a special ed setting as well as mainstream. For me, I think it takes all sorts to make the world go round, and I'm fascinated by their little minds and how they work. So I want to know so much more about all of those different things and different children and the way they learn, because we're all so different. My plan is to graduate university, and after I graduate, I'll probably take a year off study and work for a little while and gain that experience one-on-one in the classroom. Then I'd like to go back and do my master's degree. I'm hoping to do my master's in religious education, something I'm quite passionate about. So that would be my goal. The balance between work, life, and uni is difficult but worthwhile, and one I would never have been dedicated to as a younger person. So the Pathway program again has just given me that opportunity to know exactly where I am in my life and what I want to do from here. So while the last 4 years of my life have been well and truly taken up with study, and at times I feel like I don't get to see my children very often, in the long run, it will all be worthwhile, and I hope to make a difference. So thank you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today.
Thank you, Nicole. That was an awesome story. Very happy to hear similar experiences to me when I've been on placement with regards to the kids at schools and the way they learn. So we'll move on now to our third speaker, which is James Wheeler.
All right, good afternoon, all. It's a pleasure and an honour to be here. Thank you to George Lambrinidis for inviting me, and for Sarah Hallam arranging that and arranging us all our students to come here. And for Matthew for hosting this session. He's doing an admirable job and led off with some wonderful stories. I'm inspired by these students' stories, and I think that's probably the whole purpose of it, is to be inspired by other people and what can be done. Now, I was very good at school when I was younger, but I'm 60 years of age now, and I had left school rather impetuously when I was 17. Just decided to get a job and start work and do things. I'd had enough. I'd started hanging around a crowd that maybe I shouldn't have. Anyway, I went from job to job. I didn't find any of the jobs at all I was qualified for was nothing. It was menial labouring work. And because I was academically inclined, naturally, I wasn't satisfied by most of the jobs, and just went from job to job. Back then, in those days, you could have a job you could get 2 jobs a week and every week. And the job market was very different to what it is today. But anyway, after an endless succession of jobs, I decided I'd go to uni, and went down and did an exam in Wollongong, a 3-hour exam, and I got the news back, yes, you've been accepted. So I went and started uni in Wollongong University in 1981. But it was just an exam to see if you had the mental capacity to study, not if you were able to live a studious lifestyle. And so the two clashed. I hadn't changed my lifestyle so much, and I just went back to uni and worked night shift at the metal manufacturer's steel mill, Neil Copper. Anyway, so that film didn't last very long. I didn't have the right mindset, didn't have the right approach to study, and I complicated my life. It's a very common theory, a very common element of my life. But so I dropped out. 9 months, dropped out. I think I got 6 points. But that was back in 81. They never counted for anything because I just went ahead, and then life happened. So I got married and I had children, and ended up, we had 11 children altogether. But then eventually different things happened, and we got divorced. So suddenly I went from having 11 children to having none. And that left me with a lot of time on my hands, which fortunately I wasn't a drinker and that goes back to my first job ever. I was a student nurse, and I saw encephalograms of the brain and how the atrophied brain of chronic alcoholics. When I saw what alcohol does to the brain, I didn't drink. Anyway, getting off the subject. So when I had all this time on my hands, I decided that I'd go and study and that I would do something worthwhile. I'd fallen into a very unusual occupation, a pest controller. And who would know that pest control is such a rewarding career? It is, it really is. I would recommend it to anyone who doesn't really have an idea of what they want to do. Go and try it. If you like meeting people, driving to different houses every day, and these days it's a very safe occupation. Wasn't so safe back then. PPE was scorned at and looked down upon. You get poisoned and your attitude changes somewhat. So anyway, I went back, and I was still doing pest control, and I thought I'm going to study, take up my time so I don't get despondent and so I don't fall into other distractions that would be less beneficial. So I decided to enroll in TEP. I'll go back to uni, but there was no exam per se. You went to TEP, and then you did 2 sets of that at CDU up here. And that was over a 6-month period of actual study. And it was just absolutely life-changing because it taught me the discipline to go to classes and to study and to have, because there's more to studying than just being bright enough to study. You've got to be disciplined. And that's one of the things that TEP taught me, was the tertiary overgrad program taught me, because I was still working at the time, that I had to have all my study time set out and my reading time set out. You could go to the computer lab of a night and study and then put your things in, which I did. And so that I got accepted into university. Now, I could have probably gone to university, well, I did before and failed, but TEP gave me the structure to be able to study. And so when I went into university, I was prepared for it. I knew what to do, I knew how to do it. And I had the assistance of lecturers and other students. These days it's changed a lot. They're going to a lot to online learning more than in class. But I think that you'd still want to supplement the online learning with some actual physical interaction with other students and other tutors or lecturers, just to, there's a part of life that's not so cerebral. It's the physical, and like Aboriginal people, a lot of them have got different intelligences to us. There's different studies looking at different characteristics of racial intelligence, but I would say that they don't look at it in the right way. We've all got different intelligences. I've got a grandson who's part Aboriginal, and his observational skills are phenomenal. And it's got to be something hereditary, because I'm very observational. But what I learned from TEP was to study, as I was saying, and it's taken me 10 years, but part-time, to go through the studies over 10 years. And I just blown away by Nicole's revelations that she's done 20 subjects in 2 years of the 32. I know exactly what she's talking about there. And I started off, I was part-time at uni, and that's what was taking me 8 years. And then I finished off in the last 2 years, I went full-time. And that's a much harder load. But I think you've got that option with university to do part-time and full-time. So when you first start, I'd recommend probably going full, depending on your circumstances. If you've got a lot of help at home, then full-time would be great. But if you haven't got a lot of support, probably part-time's even better. But look, I know that if I hadn't have gone to TEP and done the enabling program, I wouldn't have been able to cope with study. It teaches you how to study. You mix with people who have studied, and it was just a wonderful program. And I was really inspired by my teachers at TEP, and I still see them around occasionally, and they're still doing what they were doing. And I think it's a great opportunity, particularly with the advances in technology these days. So many people are going to lose their jobs or find they no longer have a position that's viable in today's world, where there's so much automation coming in, so many people losing their job. I think it's going to be absolutely necessary that people have this opportunity to be able to go and learn another field. It could be probably totally different from what they're involved in, so that then they can get work in a more relevant field, or in a capacity that's more in line with today's requirements. Anyway, thanks for listening to me, and I hope that gives you some insight into one person's journey. Cheers.
Thank you, James. That is an amazing story, and what an amazing way that you found yourself going into uni and finding ways to study. Definitely something I took from that was the right mindset part, the part where you know you can do something, but you're not ready for it yet. And to be honest, as Nicole will know, that's very much what happens to little kids as well in school. You know, it's usually a not ready yet type scenario around a lot of these things, and things just have to fall into place. And these enabling education programs just give such a great way to sort of hoover up all these people who just really want to study and just need that right framework to do it. Anyway, that's great. Let's move on to Christy Lee. Christy Lee.
Thanks so much, Matt. And thanks to the other speakers for their amazing stories as well. For me, the enabling education process pretty much is the reason that I am where I'm at today. So before uni, I was a very average student. I think I may have even failed math at some point, but I really didn't care at that point in time. I never wanted to go to university. Both of my stepsisters had been to university, and I just wanted to be different from them. I think that was the main reason, and that I didn't enjoy school. So after I finished grade 12, I did go through to grade 12 because of the social aspect of school. After I finished grade 12, I went straight into hairdressing. I was hairdressing for 12 years. And in that time, between life and relationships and all the things that late teen, early 20s people go through, my confidence went from potentially way too high to way too low. There was a point where I wouldn't wear anything other than black. There was a point where I didn't want to wake up in the mornings and all that sort of thing. Thankfully, I got through all of that with support of family and friends. moved through it, met my husband, had babies, had some other downfalls in medical issues and so forth. And eventually it worked out that I knew that I couldn't be hairdressing anymore because I couldn't be on my feet for 8 to 12 hours a day. I couldn't hold a pair of scissors without my fingers hurting, all that sort of thing. So I stopped working and became a stay-at-home mum, basically. My husband was working away at the time. So along with the low confidence and low self-efficacy, I then also became quite isolated from other adult interaction. I had the kids, obviously, but yeah, the low confidence, the isolation and everything else, I basically became a hermit, I guess you would call it. Finally, when my children started to go off to school and needed me less and all those sorts of things, it was a matter of, well, I've got to do something. So that forced me into thinking about what I would do with my future. Finally, I decided that psychology was an interest. I mean, human behavior had always been an interest to me. I remember sitting in the car at the Mooloolaba Esplanade, for anyone who knows Mooloolaba in Queensland, just sitting in the car, eating pizza and just watching people walk by and making up some extravagant story about them. So people and behavior was, I guess, always an interest, but I finally decided psychology was something that I wanted to do. I wasn't quite sure how to get into psychology. So one of my stepsisters suggested that university would probably be the better way to do it, or perhaps the only way to get where I actually wanted to get. And that was forensic psychology at the start. And so my stepsister who works at CQ University actually suggested their enabling program, which is STEPS. So of course I went and I did that, and I did the pre-test to make sure that you were, I don't know the right wording for this, but able to partake in study and so forth, and to try and get me back into a mode of study. During this process of being enrolled into STEPS and doing that, I was told by a few family members and by a few friends as well that I shouldn't expect too much because I'm not an academic. Well, at that point, I wasn't an academic person. I had never been good at studying. I'd never been good at being a student. So yeah, I had a few people in my ear just saying, you know, this is great that you're trying, but yeah, just don't expect too much. So, and after years of isolation, and when I say isolation, I mean adult isolation, I had developed quite a bit of social anxiety as well. So that compounded the anxiety and self-doubt and everything like that. I was too scared to go to campus, so I did everything online. I wanted to get it over and done with as fast as possible, so I initially enrolled as full-time for STEPS. I did go to the orientation day, which was, looking back, absolutely hilarious, because by the end of orientation day, I had broken down in tears. I wasn't sure that I could do it. My head was hurting. There was just so many people around me. It was a very intense day for me. You know, while everybody was out having their morning tea, coffees and talking to each other, I found myself sitting over in the corner, just being like, please nobody look at me, please nobody look at me. So yeah, so that gives you a bit of an idea of where I was at mentally at that stage of life. When I did break down into tears at the end of the day, I walked up to the STEPS coordinator and I just said to her, I don't think I can do this. And she I remember it quite clearly. She turned around and she said to me, "It's okay, you'll get through this." And so I was like, okay, somebody thinks that I can do this. So let's just keep going. Let's keep giving it a try. In week 2 of my STEPS journey, and they always say if something's going to happen, it's going to be week 2. Week 2, my grandma passed away. And of course, this sent huge shock through my family. And I had gotten to the point where I was like, no, that's it. I can't do it. I can't do this STEPS thing. I can't do this education thing. It's too much for me. So I emailed the STEPS coordinator and I asked her to unenroll me. This was a Saturday. She rang me straight back. Like within 5 minutes of me sending that email, she rang me straight back. She had a chat to me about what was going on. And I was I tried to be as open and as honest as I could be with everything that was going on. And again, she just said to me, we can sort through this. We can organize this so it's a lot less stressful for you. So that's what we did. We moved me back to part-time, and she made sure that I had all the support that I needed, all the emotional and academic support that I needed. My lecturers all knew that I wasn't competent at all. And so everybody sort of pulled together to make sure that I was okay during the whole process. So I ended up staying in STEPS. I did, I think it was 3 terms of STEPS, 2 units each term. And after the first term, I got HDs. After the second term, I got HDs. I got HDs for every single unit, which really increased my overall confidence. I sort of started believing that maybe I could do this after all. Meanwhile, I still had the devil on my shoulder saying, don't expect too much. So it was a very much an internal conflict for me at that point. But with my lecturers emailing me, not every week, but quite regularly, just checking in, seeing how everything was going. I had that opportunity to converse via email, converse with other adults with the similar sort of interest to what I was trying to be interested in. So not only did my grades increase my confidence, but the support and talking to other adults was slowly decreasing my social anxiety a little. And I finally learned how to have adult conversations again, which was really great. But yeah, the take home from that was, I don't think I would have made it past week 2 if I hadn't have had that level of support. By the time I got to undergrad and I did the Bachelor of Psychological Science, I was much more confident in what I was doing. I had proven to all of my family and friends that I was capable of achieving in academia. So yeah, I was just a lot more confident. I knew what I was doing. I knew where I wanted to go. And so then I moved from part-time to full-time in my second year, I think it was. I knew how to structure my study time around my life, around the kids, and around when my husband was home and when he was away. I had proven to myself and everybody else that I was able to do this. And I ended up graduating my undergraduate degree with GPA of 6.67, which is a distinction. I also had the confidence to take on extracurricular activities. So things like the Student Psychological Society at CQU, I became a committee member there. I joined a research lab an undergraduate research lab, the Motivation of Health Behaviours lab, where I gained even more support and more confidence in what I was doing. And as a promise to the STEPS coordinator, I also wanted to make sure that I paid forward the support that I got during STEPS. So that's when I became a student mentor with CQU. I mentored over 30 students across 3 years, and I'm still actually in contact with most of them. They're all doing really, really well, which is great news. And yeah, so after the undergrad, I went straight into full-time honours and graduated in 2020 with first class honours. So again, proving to myself and all the doubters that I was capable of doing these things, not just study, but also what I would call career development with the research lab and psychological society and all the rest of it. I would call that all career development. So now, where I'm at now is I'm doing my PhD. Clearly, I no longer have doubts about being a student. But my plans are basically to become a balanced researcher. So that's part teaching, part researching. I do love research, but the idea with the teaching part of it is I want to be able to give other students what was given to me, which is that support, that confidence, that just somebody there saying you can do it, because I think that means the world to a lot of people. So not only did the Enabling Education or STEPS program give me the academic skills to tackle my student work, but it also gave me the reassurance that that I wasn't getting from anywhere else. And it also gave me the confidence that I needed to keep going. I have zero political intelligence, so when it comes to all the policy and things that we're talking about over the next 2 days, I don't have much to say about that, but what I do know is STEPS is the reason I am today. I am who I am today. STEPS is the reason that I'm passionate about supporting other students. And it is probably the founding reason that I'm so successful in what I've done so far. And I believe that every person should have that sort of opportunity to develop their passion and to be confident, not only as a person, but as a student. And yeah, so that's my story. And I hope that other people higher up in power understand the importance of it.
Thank you, Christy Lee. I think we'll be joined back to our host shortly.
Yes.
Cool. I'll leave it to you.
Yes. Wonderful. Thank you, Matthew. And thank you to all of our fabulous student panel members. It was amazing to hear all of your wonderful stories, your different experiences, and to really hear how enabling gave you these opportunities that you wouldn't have otherwise realized because of various reasons. Either you didn't have the right mindset, there was other life issues, that you had low confidence, or all of those fabulous reasons. But without enabling, that would have otherwise not be realized. So I thank you all for sharing, and encourage, if anyone has any questions, to please post it up in the chat. We've got a question coming through, but what we might do is just now deliver a poll to you all, just to get some information. So it should pop up on your screen now, and then we might go back to the students to think about, well, what could we do to help this improve? Thank you for all your responses. Excellent. So we might now just get a sense for if anyone from the panel has any comments about how we can perhaps make enabling education more widely understood. It looks like it's definitely, we've got a sort of 66% say no, which is I think why having these sessions is so important, and or yes, but not widely. I might just end that polling and we can share. Yes, so do any student panel members have some thoughts of, besides continuing to share your stories and advocate for you? Anyone got any suggestions? Or keep doing what we're doing and fight harder and make your voices heard as students?
It's Matt here. Look, I know that one time when there was a push to do some marketing, when we had the program where there were the pictures on the buses and in bus shelters around the city in Adelaide here, that I did, and then people who knew that I had something to do with uni were coming to me. Some of it was, I saw you on a bus, which is one thing, but the other side of it, they then asked what it meant, and they wanted to know what it was about and what sort of things offered. And I was actually really happy to see a lot of people asking me, not just sort of saying, hi, I saw you on a bus, but more, how does it help? Can I do it? I've got friends that are looking to go to uni, they don't know how to do it. How do I do it? So that worked well from what I saw. And that's just one way I think that we can do things.
I think for me, I didn't even realize that enabling education was a thing. Having no interest in going to uni prior to my life-changing decision, I was so unaware of what happens and the processes to actually go from one to another. You know, before I found out about enabling education, I thought it was still like a, you know, go sit a test and get an OP and go straight into uni. I didn't realize that you could do it as a mature age student. So I think promoting the fact that enabling education is around and that anybody can do it. I would even say, you know, even school leavers should probably do it as well, because it just teaches you that different type of assessment, that different type of thought processing. And somebody said it earlier, the critical thinking that you don't get taught in high school. Well, I didn't get taught that in high school anyway. So promotion.
Agree. And I think, Christy Lee, you've got a lot of other people agreeing with you as well. So yes, that promotion, we just need to keep going. I might, if there's no other responses, I'll just wait for the other panel members and then we can get question 2. So this question asking, the benefits of enabling education, which are more prominent? Polling going through, we might stop that now, and hopefully you can see all other panel members. James, Matthew and Christy Lee currently have their cameras on as well. Here we are. So yes, so looking that all are of course prominent, but I think we can definitely see that there's a huge personal benefit, which is so important for the individual to then go on to want to learn and have lifelong learning, I think is really prominent as well. Would anyone like to address any of those points of agree, disagree, or expand? Always hard when we put students on the spot. We do have to remember all other attendees, of course. You're all students and working through, and I can't imagine how nerve-wracking it may be speaking online in front of 63 other people.
I think for me, the personal benefits are quite clear. But also, if it had of cost me money, I probably would have thought twice about it. So I think that's also a big deal. And then of course the social thing. Like I said, I was, I want to say change the kitchen, but it wasn't forcibly, promise. But I've forgotten how to interact with people. So the social side of it, and I'm still, like you can probably hear it in my voice, I'm still quite a nervous communicator, but I actually talk to other people now and I couldn't do that before. So the social side of it, 100% as well.
Yeah, I sort of think that with personal benefits, you link into the rest of your life. It's not easily segregated into sort of pigeonholes. But Christy Lee, as far as I can see, the confidence she's gained and the freedom she's gained from the experience is something that I don't think any structured program could really deliver. Christy, I can see she had the drive to do it, and this enabled her to do it, which was just the most amazing story.
No, thank you. Okay, I think we've had a couple of questions, so we're just going to share the PowerPoint on the screen, and then we'll see which panel members would like to respond.
Okay, here we go. You're in an elevator for 1 minute with Scott Morrison. What 3 reasons do you give the PM as to why enabling should continue to be funded and supported by the government? Well, let's think. I reckon we can all come up with something. What did I say in mine? Look, it's beneficial to the entire country for us, for the population to be able to contribute. And if you set up an artificial system that precludes people based on wealth or life circumstances, then the country doesn't benefit. That would be one of the reasons I would give. Has anyone else got any thoughts?
It's an investment into Australia's future. If we don't enable if we don't branch out and allow everybody the opportunity, we're limiting what we have for the future.
Yes, agreed. What about you, James?
Oh, I think it's pretty obvious that it's widely advertised throughout the media and regularly that, oh, so many jobs are going to become redundant. Everything's being automated. Well, surely the people who have those redundant jobs and the ones that are taken over by automation, what are they going to do? Just go away and die? You know, that they can go and study and find something that interests them, that they can move into another field, become an academic. A lot of people don't even know there's such a job as an academic. I remember the first time I ever heard someone say that was back in 1989 in South Australia. I was working in a vineyard. We were sort of sitting around smoking, and they said, "Oh, we'll tell them what do we want to do with our lives." This bloke goes, "I want to be an academic." I just couldn't understand. I didn't know what he meant. What's an academic? I mean, you're either academic or you're not. I thought you wanted to have a brain, but no. And there's lots of different levels of intelligence and consciousness in the world, and this is one way of expanding that. And as the other poll question where it said, is it personal, economic, or social? It's all three. It's all three. And it obviously it's the most important one is going to be personal to you, but the social and economic benefits are exponential, and they multiply. They just keep increasing. The more people who get educated, the more intelligence there is, the more intelligence. I don't know if anyone's seen that thing that was going around on Facebook about the bloke saying there's a pandemic going around the world. He's got that long red hair. He's a bit of a comic character, and it's infecting the world. The best way to stop it is to watch mainstream media. It's an infection. It's called intelligence. It's brilliant. It was a really brilliant thing. But I mean, it's what we need. We need more of it.
Absolutely, James. I'm completely on that with you. I can see what you're saying. The obsession with removing people in business and try to automate around things just astounds me constantly, because without people, business doesn't really exist either. So, yeah, there has to be a balance there.
I think too, one of my 1 minute with ScoMo would be when you have such doubt in yourself and in the direction that you're potentially choosing, your mindset that you're in, you're probably likely to be doubtful about investing in yourself as well. So when you're not quite sure if this is going to work out, or if you're going to be able to get through this university thing, then you're not going to pay to give it a trial run, if that makes sense. So it's not so much about whether it's a opening into the course that you want to go to, but it's a trial running yourself. It's a try before you buy kind of thing. And without that, people are probably going to be very unlikely to invest.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, alternatively, given the same point, you go there and find you're not cut out for study. It's just not up your alley, and you go and try something else. And instead of going and enrolling in a uni course and wasting your time there.
Yeah, because that would influence, your retention and attrition rates as well. Like if you go straight into a paid course and you decide, oh, this isn't for me, then it's not only a personal thing, but for the university side of things, that's another dropout. And I think the enabling education courses, it doesn't matter which university you're at, but that sort of just gives you that little bit of a taste test before you have to make that decision.
Thank you. Wonderful responses, and so lovely to hear the passion that you have as students. And I think that resonates with us as educators to want to instill that passion for education and learning and how we can best support you. I think we've got one more question and then another one in the chat, but here we are. How different would your life be without having the opportunities provided by enabling education?
Well, mine would be extremely different. I would have lots more free time, but I certainly, I would have just stayed working with my parents. Like my husband works away in the mines, so for me, it's not a financial thing. It was a want to go to university. It was never like I need a job that pays well. It was just, this is what I love and I want to do it and this is why. So for me, I would have been one of those people that just stayed working with mum and dad and never grew, never experienced life. I'll be the first person in my entire family to get a university degree when I finish. So I've sort of paved the way.
For me, it's I would have just become a corporate drone, continued to do my job day in, day out, and probably got closer to retirement age and wondered really whether I should have done something else with my life. And I think that's the thing that I was able to go with this, is I can try something new, go out there and give it a good go. And without that, yeah, probably I would have missed out.
Yeah, I think I could have been in a very, very dark world without the enabling education that I took up. And there's probably blokes that aren't here today because they didn't do something like that.
I was thinking about this just the other night, actually. I don't know where I would be because I couldn't go back to hairdressing because of medical reasons. If I hadn't have gotten that injection of confidence and support and everything, I hate to say it, but I think I'd be 6 foot under. That's it. I know that's pretty extreme, but if I wasn't 6 foot under, I'd be in a pretty dark place.
So just as we finish up, thank you all again. If there's one word of, I guess, or little phrase or positive thought that you would suggest, yeah, what, now I'm lost my words, unlike your panelists that are, to fit it, we don't want to finish in doom and gloom. What are some of the positive things, just really quickly, one final point, and then we'll finish up.
Have a go. People don't have enough faith in themselves. So just have faith and have a go.
Excellent.
I agree with Nicole. Just believe in yourself. I think anything is possible if you're passionate enough.
Absolutely. This is the way in. This is the way to try a new thing. Get in there, give it your best shot. You're going to have all the support you need. The people in these enabling education programs are just amazing, and that's students and lecturers and tutors alike. All of those people are underappreciated in some ways for the extra effort that they put in.
Lovely. Thank you very much. And as a few people in the chat have said, yes, anything is possible if you're passionate enough. I really like that. So I think we might finish up on that because we are right at the end of our session. So please, all of the people listening in, join me in thanking our wonderful student panel to kick us off. I think it's a great start to this session. Just a little housekeeping while everyone's doing their thank yous. I'll just share up on the screen. We will have a lunch break session, an informal lunch break session that you're welcome to attend in roughly 15 minutes online via Zoom if you just want to get together and have a bit of a chat with some of the other participants, educators, higher education people, and all of that. So that will run from 1 to 1:45 Australian Central Daylight Saving Time, so just under 15 minutes. So you can have a little break and then pop on while you might be having some lunch, or depending on what time it is, can join in a bit of an informal chat. Before then, we will start at 2 p.m. Australian Central Daylight Saving Time with our amazing session, I think, to then leap us onto from our students with Sally Kift, Sharon King and Victoria Fielding talking about the AQF. So thank you all so much for the excellent discussion, the chats, the participation. I hope you've enjoyed our first session. We look forward to seeing you in the lunchtime Zoom break and then also again in session 2 for this afternoon.
Thank you.